Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Entertainment Headquarters, and welcome to a very special, unique KAIJU Connections. That's right. This is my segment on the channel dedicated to all things KAIJU, giant monsters from film and television, and we're generally not classic film reviews, or we do topics and subjects on the genre itself. So now I decided to do something very different. I decided to bring her a stream called fantasy filmmaking. That is correct. Fantasy filmmaking, where we will take classic kaiju movies outside of Godzilla, outside of Gamera, outside of Kong, and do either a prequel, a remake, a reimagining of those particular films. And how we're going to do it is we're going to do it by telling the audience watching the story involved. And so, of course, I have a panel of amazing guests that were excited to do this with me. We have Mr. Big Bad Wolf. We have Mr. Sexual Chocolate, Mr. Jedi Granville of Jedi Granville Productions. We have, I don't know who this man is with his glasses on.
The mystery man.
He's a psycho.
There you go.
We'll have Professor Daniel Miller.
Wait, dang it! I thought there was another pair he had under there.
Hey, don't preempt me. There are a lot more where these came from, John.
Well, if you have them on the plane when we go to Chicago, I'll be shoving them up your ass. Anyway.
Alrighty, let's get the party started with that.
Anyway,
you'll get to see so much
the
of
one
3D.
and only KAIJU in his Ultra G. And finally, of Anthony Jordan's movies in gaming. So, gentlemen, like I say, fantasy filmmaking. We're all a massive kaiju fans. We're big fans of cinema, television, and we all have big imaginations. And we've all had like our own ideas and dreams of what a kaiju film in our mind we would want to make. So, with that said, let's get cracking. And let's see who we're going to start with. Why don't we start with my first guest at the top, Mr. Big Bad Wolf?
Oh crap!
There you go. Lay it on us,
Always
baby.
first. Okay, well, the film and monster I chose was the giant behemoth, which is another classic UK kaiju. Originally, it was either going to be Yungari, but I eventually decided to switch over to do giant behemoth because I feel, from what I can understand, funny thing is, this is my first time watching the film today. But from what I heard prior to that was the film felt a lot like a copy and paste UK Beast with 20,000 Fathoms.
Yeah,
I can attest to that.
And so I felt maybe I'll try to watch this film, see if there's something I could do, maybe do differently to help the film stand out. And I'm glad I watched it because there was a certain thing that happened within the film that made me think, you know what, there was something that probably could have been more explored if they had the right of mind to it.
Yes. So tell us your sequel, prequel, or reimagination.
So the reimagination I would do, so we'll start with, of course, we're all familiar that the film opens up with a nuclear bomb testing in the Pacific or Atlantic, whichever the ocean is. Don't yell at me, geographers. If there's any geographers in the chat.
Which there will be.
But anyways, we know it begins with that. My idea is first it begins with just a few fishing boats out in the middle just trying to get some live catches so they can bring back to the village or the communities they're part of, since a lot of those areas tend to rely more on fishing for their income and for economic value. So the idea would be throw out in the middle of the ocean, try and get a catch in, and all of a sudden they catch something, but it's so big that it's pulling all the ships down. And they're doing whatever they can to try to get everything back up before they lose the net, or worse, the ship gets wrecked. Well, eventually they decide to cut the rope to the net because they realize it's better they lose something than lose their lives in the ship, because they lose the ship. How are they going to get back home? They'll just be stranded at sea or dead or drowned. But as they do that, much like what happens at the beginning of the film to that old man, a bright light happens, but you hear a growl in the background, and that's it. Then that's when we cut to a footage of a nuclear bomb test. Like, instead of being a bomb test, it would be a footage of a nuclear bomb test and Bikini Atoll, and that's when we'll step that marine biologist still explain, like, hey, there are concerns with these testings because, as he explained in the film, the plankton get affected by the radiation, which get eaten up by the fish, who then get affected by the radiation, who then get eaten up by the seabirds that get affected by the radiation. And then who knows what's killing those birds and eating them. So it's that huge cycle of eventually everything's going to get affected by radiation one way or another. And again, they mentioned the Nagasaki, what happened in Nagasaki, what happened in Hiroshima, and what they did before that, which was they cut off all the fishing boats, and then the fishing economies got affected by it. But then one thing I want to change too is they mentioned what happened in Bikini Atoll. Because for those that don't know, Bikini Atoll, the fishing communities were greatly impacted by the bomb test at Bikini Atoll, to the point to where fishermen were coming back with radiation burns or badly sick and not that much to catch, because all the fishers kept dying because of the bomb test we did to the Operation Crossroads and a bunch of other operations we did there. And then that's when we would cut to, it would be instead, at the beginning of the film, it had a father catching a fish and a dog going, oh, you're going to bring that back to your friends and stuff like that. And the father goes, yeah, but then a bright light happens and he dies, as we know of. This one, a father and daughter come back from a fishing trip. They notice something is up because they notice there's fish dead on the shore. Another thing, too, is they changed it to where it happens on Holy Island, which is also an island community off the coast of England. So that's where it happens on Holy Island. And they notice there's a bunch of dead fish. And they're like, we got to figure out what's going on here, because they also noticed there's been a few dead people. There's a few dead people on the beach. They go up there and they notice there's people alive, but every one of them have keloid burns, blisters on, like what you would have from radiation. But what's unbeknownst to them is they're all acting very weird. They're laughing hysterically. They're singing and chanting and reciting Bible verses, in which I have listed here. Job 40:15 through 19, which is, behold now Behemoth, which I have made thee, he eateth grass as an ox, and so on. Genesis 1:2, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Along with Psalm 107:23 through 24. They that go down to the sea in ships, these see the works of the Lord and his wonders in the deep. Isaiah 5:20. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness. Exodus 7:20 through 21. All the waters that were in the river were turned to blood, and the fish dead in river sand. Revelation 13:4. And they worship the beast, saying, he who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him. And then Job 41:1. Canst thou draw out Leviathan with a hook? And so on. So the idea is they're actually seeing visions and worshiping this beast, or making random recitments and chants from each of these Bible verses and mixing and jumbling them up, as if they're worshiping and seeing visions of the beast. And by the time they realize, hey, this town has lost their minds, they also notice they're literally eating the rotted dead fish that they found on shore hours ago. And eventually the father thinks, we need to get out of here, because eventually the townspeople start getting hostile, a lot more frenzied and aggressive. They're like, we got to get out of here. But they were getting aggressive. They were literally relentless. They went after them. And so the father's last-ditch effort pushes the daughter down onto the shore and pretty much says, get out of here, get help, as the villagers drag them off. And so that's when the daughter goes out to sea frantically. She's panting, she's freaking out as she runs by. On the same beach, you guys remember what happened to the man's hand when he came across this blob jellyfish-like substance out there in his hand?
Yeah.
We see that thing puffing and emitting some kind of thing into the environment. And so then we cut to when the biologist and the professor are kind of having a meeting about everything that's going on. Reports of boats being lost, fishermen not coming back, fish being brought up to Cornwall, which is where the first part of that story takes place in the original film, and about how there was one dead and many had their hands burned, as well as again, missing ship. Let me make sure I have it on my notes. That way I don't screw up anything.
Pretty good so far.
So far, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like how you added the Bible, how you added their quote from the Bible into your story about the behemoth. I think that's really smart and intelligent.
Well,
I like that too.
That's the idea I got from the film itself, because at one point they're like, "What did the old man say before that?" She said behemoth. Like, what? It's like, it's a prophecy from the Bible. And I went, "Yep, I think I know where I want to go with this. I want to go more to my idea too is cosmic horror." Because I'm having to where the people are afflicted with madness from the radiation exposure.
Yeah.
As if the radiation melted part of the brain away.
There was even a voiceover at the very beginning of the film that actually quotes a verse from the Bible in which it names the creature Behemoth.
Yeah.
That I didn't hear. I'll be honest, I did not hear that.
What?
But pretty much, so yeah, they have a chat on the repo off the coast. Again, boats reported missing, a few fishermen dead. And then they get a call from the Admiral about a distress call, which is from that girl. And then that's when which is off the coast of that holy island, who is being hysterical and plays people on the island have gone crazy, and their father's being taken. So on the way, as she's getting back from... So we'll say the Navy finally finds her on a boat. They take her from the boat and bring her to where the professor and the biologist is. She's having these visions of the beast. But it's very vivid, very lucid, very vague. You're not seeing much, maybe a shoulder. The only thing you see is just the eye and maybe a growl in the background that's like... I think I've described it as the roar is like thunder, but it's also piercing to the point where it's making her go mad. And so she gets brought in. They ask her, what's going on? Why is this happening? What can you explain? So, of course, she goes from the top about how she and her dad just got back from this fishing trip. They knows all the fish are dead. They know some people are dead. And then she knows all the townspeople were all just mad and mention that they're eating a rotted carcass from fish and all of that. They're like, and that's when they said, okay, we need to go to this island and check it out to see what's going on. Because this sounds very familiar to how the Japanese people had keloid scars, and those scars that she explains, the blisters, sound very similar to those bombs. So, because of course in the film, as we remember, the professor and the marine biologist go to this island community, and they talk to the doctor where they examine the man's hand. They're like, "Do you remember where your hand got hurt?" And they find all that. So they go to Holy Island. They walk up. And that's when they notice the village people have gone even crazier than before, as now they're just constantly laughing and chanting. Nothing going on. They're just laughing and chanting constantly. And also trying to persuade them to, hey, eat the fish, eat the fish. It will bring you good health or something. Well, by the time they finally say, you know what? We think we have an idea what's going on. They look and they finally find the father, who also went mad, but he was also cannibalized.
Christ.
As to show more of the madness that they're getting. And as they're on the way back to the boat, they're like, okay, we need to report these findings, but first we'll try to get a few of these fish to bring back with us. Because I want to keep that from the film, because that's how they find out about the radiation in the film, is they had to test all the fish. Well, with that one, I'm also making it to where they come across that blob, and they knows it emitting something, so they safely, cautiously, meticulously trying to describe just how careful they were about getting this substance they found into these containers safely while making sure it doesn't spread, and bring it back for testing. As they're on their way back, that's when we see another instance of the beast, and that's when it goes to another island community, goes to another community where it attacks, like what happened in the film, except it happens much later, where the father and son go out, they go to shoot at it, it emits radiation and it kills them, as what happens in the film. I'll make it to where they do die, like what happened, but except there will be some survivors that's also reportedly going mad. But that won't be until later on. So they go back, and as they're on the way back, the girl is having visions again, but she's going even madder than before, just slowly, to the point to where she's at, they call for a psychiatrist and a counselor, because they're thinking she's just having mad PTSD and trauma from what she saw with her father. So they're like, okay, let's bring him in, let's get her examined and everything so we can try to help her. They get back, and of course, as we've seen from the film, they get the fish tested to see if there's any radiation in them, there's any poisoning in them. And we do see, as they saw, there's traces of radiation. But then they test the blob, and they find it's emitting some sort of chemical in the air. And so that makes them want to call a chemist and someone who works in pharmaceuticals, because they believe whatever it's emitting is what's making the people go mad. And as they're reporting those findings, that's when, of course, the professor calls the prime minister going, this is urgent, I know what's going on, this is important, please have him call us within 5 minutes, it's very urgent. And as that's going on, that's when they report to the prime minister, hey, there was something here that's poisoning our fish supplies, it's making the ocean inhabitable. And it's just it's what's causing the people to go crazy. And as that's going on, that's when that prime minister goes, okay, if you believe so, I can send you out with someone to investigate the water to see if there's something there. If you so believe so, whereas the professor can stay behind and try to see what's going on with this substance. So they eventually figure out this substance within it that's emitting is a chemical that's used on asylum patients to try to help calm them down. As well as they notice it's similar to what they perhaps used on Nazi soldiers to make them go crazy during the Blitzkrieg.
Right.
And so as that's going on, that's when, as we see in the film, I still want to keep that's when you first see a glimpse of the behemoth, but not much is seen, just boiling water, a bit of the monster's neck, and they're like, okay, we've seen it. We got to go back and let them know, hey, this is what's happening. And so I'm still going to keep that as that's what happens next is, hey, we saw this thing. Are you sure you saw? Like, I know what I saw. That thing was much bigger than a whale, and it looked strong enough to do this much damage. He's like, okay, we'll figure out what we're going to do with it. And that's when they get a call about what happened to that other community. And they go there where they discover, hey, this son and father died along with the mother and dog. A bunch of other people died. The survivors are also reported to be acting crazy, going mad, doing these same chants, also eating rotten fish. And so that's when they call for quarantine on the island and that coastal community. Like, okay, we need to quarantine this so we can try to figure out what's going on, see if we can make a cure, see if there's a way we can try to contain this madness before it spreads.
Mm-hmm.
And as that's going on, the girl's getting more and more farther down her sanity line, to where she's even trying to go for stuff that trying to eat stuff she normally wouldn't even try to eat. And so they're starting to see like, hey, it's starting to quickly affect her, so we need to have her quarantined because obviously she's going to be a flight risk. And as that happens, they're like, okay, we need to go see a paleontologist because this is, in fact, a living creature that is a dinosaur, but we still don't know what it is. Because like what happened in the film, they got the footprints along with seeing the dinosaur itself. So I still want to keep that in there because it just gives more context as this thing is an animal that's been living for thousands upon millions of years.
Yes.
And so I still want to keep that in there. And so the paleontologist explains, yes, this is a Paleosaurus. I can tell by the fossilized footprints compared to the footprints we see here. This thing is trying to go on its normal migratory route, if I had to guess. But he goes, but if you guys are going to go out there and kill it, I still would like to take a look at it. Like what happened in the film. But I want to make it more to where it's... Because we saw like what happened when it emitted irradiation that blew up the helicopter.
Yes.
My thing is I want to make it to where it's not radiation, it's just the electricity from it is able to emit an EMP pulse that makes the helicopter go nuts and it crashes. And because that thing's radiation level was making the water boil, they literally got themselves cooked to death. Because it was literally boiling the water so bad because of its radiation. And so I still wanted to go to where they still explain, like, hey, this thing's got radiation. We can't exactly blow it to bits, otherwise it's going to spread. And this place would be pretty much a ghost town. It would be near it and hospitable for who knows how long. It would be like Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And so I still want to keep the briefing room, but also explain, like, hey, we still want to, if we can, let's try to get a sample from it, because there could be something in there that we can use to try to maybe treat what's going on with the people who are going mad. In other words, treat the daughter, treat the people, and treat the others. And as that's going on, we see more of these visions from the daughter, and now you're seeing more of a fake image of the creature's face, and it's just horrifying her to the point where she's literally bashing her head against the wall, because she's also hearing her father just telling her to yield to the beast, let it come, let it feed, let it walk. This is God's timing. It's as in Revelation, it's described that 2 beasts will appear along with the 7-headed dragon with 10 horns on each head. But as that's happening, that's when the beast finally makes its first landfall. As we know, it attacked the boat and eventually came to London. And so I want to keep that in. Yep. Except I want to make it to where it at least attacks Big Ben. Because I feel you could have had it attack Big Ben.
Yeah. You can have the shot very reminiscent of Godzilla destroying the clock tower in the original movie.
Yeah. I like the look of the new design that you've made as well, because it looks more like a giant Komodo dragon, like the face.
Yeah.
Especially
well, I will say that's all ChatGPT right there, because I begged and pleaded for to get the Paleosaurus, and it's like, sorry, but this pretty much interferes with guidelines. We can't do that. I went, oh, and then it just gave me a prompt that I could use.
Yo, Sarah. Hello.
What up, Sarah?
Yeah. Hello, Sarah.
And so,
hey, John, can I just quickly say something about the image? Can you bring it back, please?
Yeah, I'll bring it back up.
Yeah. Now, I'm not quite sure if this is intentional, but I absolutely love the dark and light contrast, especially around the mouth and the eyes, because it looks like it itself has been scarred or is suffering sores, like gangrenous radiation sores. And I really do like this really rough texture, giving that impression that not only do we know from the aura it gives off that it has been exposed, but we can physically see the exposure the creature itself has taken because of its dysmorphed skin texture, which I think is a really nice touch.
Well, you want to know the funny thing, Daniel Miller? That was never my intention. I'm just like, can you please get the Paleosaurus or any shot of it from the film in the same contrast and style as that front image that you did that I showed it? And ChatGPT just kept going, sorry, but this interrupts our guidelines. So I'm like, and then so it just gave me a prompt to vote. I'm like, yes, dude, it was fine. I'll use your prompt, just do that, and that's just what happened. I didn't even read what the prompt was. So I'm like, here, just do this. I'm like, just do this. And still I had it in the village. I'm like, no, have it with London in the background with Big Ben in the background. They're like, okay, we'll do that.
Yeah. I hate when AI generators do that. I feel that frustration.
Yeah, so I'm like, well, I gotta do something. But yeah, my plan is to have something reminiscent to Godzilla attacking the clock tower. Like, my goal is maybe it stands up on its hind legs and like smacks it down or stomps it sauropod style. Well, I would like it if it were to go and grab it with its mouth and just check that clock part, and it just crushes a few people.
Awesome.
Like I at least want to show some aggression from the animal. Like it's literally a territorial animal trying to pass through, but it's just getting so annoyed because it sees all these ants annoying it. And so I still wanted to wreak havoc, and like what happened in the film when it emitted all that radiation, I want to be some people died, but then some people got inflicted with madness. And as that's happening, same thing. People are chanting. People are hysterically jumping and laughing for no reason. Which I got that part from a scene from Elden Ring, where you go to fight one of the Godskin apostles, and you see these women just kicking and dancing and just laughing just for no reason. Like they're just laughing hysterically, like what you would see witches in most films. So that was my idea for that. It's like they're just kicking, they're just laughing, they're chanting, they don't know what's going on. They just look like they're just high on so much drugs. But pretty much they're just chanting about how the behemoth is gonna save everyone. How he's the key to all things. Again, trying to keep to that cosmic horror like with Cthulhu. And even the military goes nuts to the point they literally start killing some of the people that were also mad because they themselves went mad and start cannibalizing the people.
Nice.
And then that's when they're like, and because of that, they're like, we got to quarantine Linden now because who knows how much of that has spread. So now they have to quarantine down. They have to wear so much protection, make sure all that emission doesn't get breathed in by them. But then they make a plan to lure the beast out. So like maybe we can try to, I don't know what I would do with that, but I think have it be lured by like a noise that a submarine makes.
Sonar.
Or sonar, some kind of sonar the submarine would make that would attract it thinking it's prey. Because some animals, like what they did with Godzilla in 1985 when they had him being lured by a mechanical bird. Because it knows that his dinosaur species, would follow birds towards the food source, which is very reminiscent of how most predators are. In fact, wolves would follow ravens to carrion. And that's how wolves become such good friends with ravens that pups are literally playing with the ravens. That's just a little tit for tat right there.
That's more than a tit for tat.
But pretty much like, well, if we lure this thing out, we can be able to shoot it down and kill it without it blowing to bits and affecting everything else. Because if we can kill it here in the ocean, then it can just affect that area in the ocean like what happened in the film. And like what they did to help up the temperature and help speed up the radiation process so it cooks on the inside, they lace it with radium. But I'm thinking uranium would probably... But I'm thinking maybe instead of radium, use uranium. Since uranium's a stronger radiation. And so lace the torpedo with that. But as that's happening, the beast is also going across, causing power outages, causing more towns to go mad and crazy, and people worshiping it. Well, the ghost goes madder and madder to the point to where she almost bit a doctor's hand off. Well, also making those chants. So unfortunately, the girl is now far gone. And so she has to be even more now she has, instead of being quarantined, now she has to be put in isolation. Because now she's too much of a flight risk. And so they lured the beast out into the waters to stay like, because I think in the film, didn't they have her like near the docks or something?
Yeah.
So make it more out to sea, that way it doesn't affect anyone nearby.
Like down the Thames estuary.
Yeah, pretty much somewhere way down the line that way. If that thing gets killed, someone's not going to get affected by it. They're not going to be in proximity. And so I still want to make it to where the animal still gets shot by the radiation in the mouth and it slowly dies. But I like to make an inspiration from Godzilla -1, where it goes up and we see the radiation start to melt away its body. And so it looks zombified. Because I wanted to look very horrific and horrifying, because I felt like there could have been more that could have done with that. And now we start to see what the creature actually is. That's exactly what the girl's image was. and many of the other villagers and people who were mad that was their image. It wasn't what the beast looked like then. Is what it looked like now with that zombified looking face. Helping everything go into a full circle. And then the animal was like going nuts. It's attacking the submarine. It's attacking a nearby ship. Because I still wanted to have some kind of carnage and casualty before it finally goes down. But then because the electricity in its body, with the rapid heat of the radiation, plus the torpedo that hit it, and the unstableness of uranium, I want to make it to the electricity literally goes haywire, that it gives that one last piercing growling howl that it explodes.
That's a really good one.
Nice.
And then
So it explodes.
yeah, pretty much. Kind of like what happened to Godzilla in -1, except instead of just falling into pieces, it just explodes.
And is your movie left with a cliffhanger?
Yeah, I would say I would like to have it to where they're all talking about how they need to be more cautious about using nuclear testing, and they need to be a lot more careful when it comes to preserving the environment, because it could have been a lot worse if they didn't take the procedure. But at the end of the film, much like -1 and many other films, we still see that first we see that the townspeople are still going mad crazy, showing that they literally can't cure it, and to the point where they're attacking the people being quarantined. Like, the people being quarantined are attacking the soldiers and everyone quarantining them. And then at the end, we see that the creature is slowly regenerating.
Interesting.
Yeah, my idea was cosmic horror and complete horror.
Yeah, well, I like the idea. Like I say, the bit with the Bible information added into the story, and how you've explained how the creature has this, can regenerate like -1. It means basically Behemoth could always come back, might never die.
Yeah.
Yep, and the funny thing is, I could also tie it in with Leviathan from the Bible, since that thing also swam, which is another thing I want to do with my design too. That's one thing I know is that thing should have had webbed feet, with it being completely aquatic.
Right.
Yes. So, guys, what's your thoughts on his film?
Really good.
Excellent.
I got nothing. That was hardcore. Bringing that to life like that, that's like, whoa.
Yeah, I have to say that the horror elements, especially the elements
I like the horror
reminds me of it reminds me a lot of H.P. Lovecraft in a really, really good way, and that definitely plays well not just with the Giant Behemoth as a remake, but with the kaiju genre in general. And this is a solid example of this.
Thank you. That was my idea. Again, I had an idea that I wanted to do some kind of horror element with Behemoth, but it was once I heard the girl in the movie go, "Hey," she said Behemoth, like the prophecy from the Bible. I'm like, again, this is my first time watching the film. I know I want to go with this now.
Yeah, it's like when she was talking about the Behemoth in your story. It felt as if, like, I don't know, like it was like a prophecy of the creature like eventually showing up, which would give it like this kind of dark horror undertone.
Yeah, thank you. That was my idea too. What I wanted was to go with streamlined horror.
Yes.
Like, especially make it to like, of course, the monster wasn't going to make that much of an appearance throughout the film or story, but at least have its presence be known and felt throughout the story.
Well, that is your reimagining of Behemoth. So
The Giant Behemoth, 1959.
1959. So now we're going to Mr. Jedi Granville.
Oh my God! I don't even know if I can. I don't think I can. Look at what John just gave. I don't even think it's even I was like, that's the most robust telling of something that You can
So
give, but I'll give
what
it
has
a
checked out already?
yes. I mean, it's not even worth it, but I'll try to
Everyone's just worth it, Walter.
I'll try to give my best in terms of the kind of the kind of working of it. But basically, it's this. Okay, I chose Chronos. Okay,
Yes.
it's one of those films that it's one of the it's basically a B film, based back then, and it's not so
It's a
grand.
film I have still yet to see, Mr. Walter.
Well, eventually,
Oh.
when I break it down, what I got here, it's more of a sequel to this, to the 57 version, to what I'm going to talk about as far as story line wise. So basically, it's this. Okay, it's set in the late 70s during a time when energy shortages or energy wars was such a thing back then. This is before all of you guys were even born. And see, I was aware of these things, but it's a time when yes, oil, gas, and all these other things, were just just a random thing.
You're
And
trying
like
to tell you're trying to tell us, Walter, you're old.
no, I'm not trying. I am saying I'm old. I am saying that,
He's
but
been saying that for years.
yes, but I had to convince myself of that though. But anyway, no, the story takes place 20 odd years ago. It's in this, like I say, it's in the 70s, and if you watch, well, I'm kind of spoiling it for you. I mean, Daniel Miller knows this, but if you look at the first, the original one, Dr. Glasgow pretty much says to Vera, because she asked the question, do you think we'll they'll send any more down, these collectors down anymore? She said, well, if they do, we'll be ready. Okay.
Is your movie a sequel
It's a
to
sequel.
the original to the original Chrono?
From the original, yes, from the original film. And trust me when I say it's a little bit darker in terms of it's more of literally a War of the Worlds type thing, although it's not really much of a war because these things are like sponges. They absorb energy of all kinds. And there's a hint of it in the first one, but these new collectors don't just suck up man-made energy. They literally suck up the energy of any living life form. The electrical energy of not just humans, but animal life too. These things can suck up these things like that. I mean, even though it's not that much of it, it still are able to suck it up. Okay, suck it up. Anyway, it actually kind of starts in terms of course, one or two of these things, and they land kind of separately in certain places. And the thing about this is, there's an observer. I'm not just like it's kind of weird because, like I said, I'm a spin doctor, and it's like it's have a person that's observed these things. He's an astronomer, and he notices these things, and there are certain documentations about a certain thing like this landing in Mexico, and everything, and they feel like, well, we need to check these things out. Go check them out. He has a team, blah blah blah. But the thing about these are very new, very different collectors than the last ones. And the thing about this is, they were Dr. Glasgow and his team was able to destroy this thing by a simple means of pulling the energy upon itself by literally having it eat itself alive. These are pretty much like I say, this is 20 years later, so they've had a chance to adapt to that little, kind of what you call vulnerability. It's like I say, these things are literally almost invulnerable, but they are able to suck energy from like anything else. And here's where it gets kind of interesting. These two that they land, they coordinate themselves where they actually send out a signal right ahead and tell more to come down. And this is where I said the War of the Worlds plot kind of fits into this during this time where, like I say, Vietnam has ended, different things, and the planet is already in a state of chaos anyway. Even though you've had some things like the film Star Wars kind of rejuvenate some things, but this is going to put them out of balance again because now you have more of these things coming down, and they're not so much destroying the planet in terms of crushing or anything like the first one does in the first one. They literally are sucking the life form of the planet itself. I mean, it don't have to necessarily be just nuclear power. It could literally be something like turbines or something like that. Even something like an active volcano, they could suck up the energy of that and kind of produce it in terms of where they suck that energy up. So you got to think like, okay, how can they store these things? They can't do it the second time. The first time they did in the first movie. Okay. This young scientist, he's like, he's not even 30. He's like a mere 29, 28, something like that. He discovers that this is where Dr. Glasgow comes into the picture. He's retired, he's pretty much like 70s or anything like that. And I mentioned Vera, they married, they have kids, whatever. But she's passed away. He's kind of more of a not so much decrepit. He's just more like, well, I went through this before. I don't think I can go through this again. But he does come up with an idea of terms of like, I'm figure like if these things are new, it's like there has to be a weakness. Everything in his life has a weakness. So it's like, well, what can you do about it? But while this is going on, or these things come down, and like I say, the planet is becoming more and more, like so far 60% of the planet, not 60%, but like 40% of the planet is already drained of power. Okay, this is a scary thought because some of them land in Japan, some of them land in London, some land in South America again. Some land. It basically is kind of a cluster of, what could we do?
To show the images yet?
You could put up the one that doesn't show them sucking up anything.
Question, Walter. I know you're old enough that you remember the energy crisis from the late 70s. Are you drawing like some memories from that into this?
I am, believe it or not, I'm about to hit you with one too. That's the thing. I'm thinking y'all familiar with the 3 Mile Island incident.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, like I say, while these things are going on, 3 of these things attack the 3 Mile Island. Not like before. And like I say, this happens during the time when that incident happened. Suck up the energy, the radiation from that, and that's the thing about these things. They can actually grow in size when they suck up the energy's resources. So I can say it's going all right. Yeah, like I say, I'm taking from personal observation from this back then because these things happen. Things like this happen with the like I say, with that incident. That was by accident. That was man-made. But take something that actually happened and say, what kind of occurred with this to use this in order to say, well, was that the reason why this happened? But anyway, he comes up with I'm talking about Dr. Glasgow. He's retired. He kind of comes up with an idea that, okay, the scientist tells him, he's like, we can't do it like we did before. I mean, what you had done, brilliant, where it sucked pretty much the energy upon itself. It pretty much eats itself alive. So what can you do now? Because like I say, everything in life, despite, its invulnerability, has a slight weakness. Superman does, everything else does, so Dr. Glasgow is like, I don't really know. I mean, for me, I'm kind of burnt out. This is something that's I dealt with, and I never thought this would happen again. I mean, like I say, I knew I said I would be ready, but with the loss of his wife, Vera, it's like, I don't know if I can come up with anything. So what it turns out that there is some of these things that are a hive, they're kind of on a hive mind, like the Borg a little bit. There's like one individual that not so much controls, but it's one that actually centers them around the planet, doing the deed that they're supposed to do, which is sucking up the energy and everything. So he comes with, I'm talking about Dr. Glasgow, he comes with the ideas like, why don't we find out which one it is that's actually has the hive mind in terms of where they're all connected up to one another, because they are connected up to one another. Now you can pull up that one image where you see the ones where they are like sucking up the energy and everything. This is just an example. But how they suck it up, even though they're in connection with one another, the one that's somewhat, not so much semi controlling them. Why don't we focus on that? And if we can, see if we can do something where we can draw it away from the planet. And then these things like the bees, they'll follow it away from the planet itself. And it's like I say, that's why I say I had to really think about this, because it's kind of difficult trying to get this. And like I say, this is not as robust as John. This is just far from that, but this is just what you call typical 70s kind of melee of sci-fi, but it's set in this time. If you do it now, it would be kind of like, well, we got it. And I should say this too: the military are useless because they can't do jack shit. I mean, they can fire these things, whatever, but all it does is that bullets, bombs, and everything. All it does is like, oh, that kinetic energy is just sucking it up. It's like y'all just feeding these damn things. So eventually, they find a way where they find the hive one, the one that actually, is in conjunction with all of them, which like I say, they're all in the hive, the mind of control and everything. So somehow, some way, they managed to get some kind of new kind of material it's like I say, it's far more it's far more radiated than anything they've come before. And it's something that they discovered, like not in the States, but like somewhere, like I say, in Africa somewhere. It's a material that's far more dangerous than uranium is, any kind of material that they've ever found. And what they find out is that this material is something that's actually made out of the hulls of these things, but for some reason, it's highly toxic to human beings. So somehow, this is like I say, this is why I say this. You got to really bend the logic on these things. They figure like, okay, well, if they're feeding off these things, it's like, what if we take this material that we found, put it in something, and actually shoot it? And this, like I say, this is kind of a simple notion, but at the same time, it's something that could work. And like I say, this is where, because human being at this point, we're down to like 40% of the the Earth's resources in terms of power. They pretty much drained a lot, and it's like if they go wholeheartedly up to 100, it's like it's over for humanity. It's over for Earth, basically. Earth is a dead planet. So they take what is of this material, and they find certain missile, one of these Vanguard, but one of these. In fact, it's, believe it or not, this is what's going to be so tricky. You remember the moon landings? You remember the Apollo rockets and everything? It's surprisingly, they have one that's been dismantled, but for some reason, through efforts through other nations, they managed to actually get this particular one up and running. They store this material inside, and like I say, the hive one of these collectors, they able to have it, realize what it is, and somehow they shoot this thing into space. And the thing about it is, when they do this, the thing's like, it connects to all the other ones, and it's like, we got to follow this. And somehow, by some miracle, they do all the ones that are on the planet start to follow intangible somehow. They follow it, but what's weird about this is they head into deep space, and somehow coming away from the Earth, this drains their energy for whatever reason. It's like whatever was energy they got from the planet, it's actually like draining them by doing this, by following this particular missile, this particular rocket. So in hindsight, they literally die by trying to get this other rocket. In terms of, they literally destroy themselves. They literally they starve. They literally starve to death. But they don't blow up like they do in the it's like all the energy that they sucked up, consumed and everything, it falls back. And it's like I say, like I say, this is just an example of like them sucking up everything. This is before they can shot into space, but they literally pretty much die, starving themselves trying to get this material. But unfortunately, it's way out in space now. Particularly, the fuel that they use, and I feel like the fuel of the material that they use actually powers this thing further into space, and it's like they're trying to catch, but in tandem, they literally starve themselves, or they literally die trying to do that. And this helps the planet rejuvenate itself, because even though there's like 40% of energy on the planet, in time they will regenerate. It's like that's one thing about the planet, that this Earth, it's been damaged before by man, and everything and whatever, but it will learn to live again, because people learn to live with one another. And we got to remember, this was at a time when things were, let's say, chaotic, because nations were getting nations, blah blah blah. We've seen that before, but here they come in tangent when they come to realize, like, okay, that was a common enemy. We learned to live together to, like I say, to fight against this common enemy. So now that this particular enemy is gone, it's like, okay, we pretty much have, done a great service to this planet, because otherwise we would have been dead. And the character of Glasgow, even though he's lost a lot of things, with as far as his wife and everything, he realized he's gained some kind of purpose, because he realized, like, hey, I went through this, but at the same time, it's rejuvenated me to know, and I can't just, because I should have said this earlier. He was at the point where he was like literally going to commit suicide because he didn't have his wife anymore. That's kind of dark, but he realized, like anything else. Oh, yeah, what's the newest? Okay.
What up, Anubis?
We are good. We are
the only hooligan we know of.
But in the end,
hooligan.
Yeah. But in the end, like I said, I'm wrapping it up. But in the end, he learns to live again, and learns to, like I say, kind of rebuild the world of what it was, so, and everything. But anyway, bottom line is, we see these things go into space, and they die and everything. But if you want to ask me if there's like a kind of twist to this, well, behind the moon, our moon, lies something in the midst of this observing. I'm not going to say what it is, but it sees these things, it sees left and everything, and they realize, like, if I'm going to do, if this, and like I say, it's a different shape kind of thing. If I'm going to do something like they did, I'm going to do it a little differently, and we just leave it at that, because it lets you know, it's like there's still something ominous in the universe, but what it is, we don't know.
Nice.
So, there you go.
But it leaves on like a very dark, like a very sci-fi mystery, so you don't know what's on the other side of the moon, but you kind of know it's not something good.
Yeah.
I would say it reminds me a lot of, I forget what these machines are called, but it's in Justice League Dark Apocalypse Wars, where Darkseid was using machines similar to drain Earth of its resources.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think what that is. I'm trying to think, But yeah, but no. The thing about it is, it's like I say, it's not as much because I could have gone deeper into the characters, but it's like I'm trying to. I mean, that's the thing about '70s movies, especially. Some of them focused on characters, especially if they're science fiction. But sometimes it was more like, let's get to the action, And that was kind of like me because me being a '70s kid. That's what I wanted. I want to see what we're gonna happen, I mean, I want to see this happening, and everything. And like now we're not talking, But as I've gotten older, I feel like if you did it now, you do a sequel to this film today, you definitely would want to hone in on the human interaction because you want to get that story. Because I mentioned before Dr. Glasgow's situation and how he's like I say, he's a widower, so.
Mm-hmm.
Naturally, these things.
Nice.
Yeah.
A really interesting story. Like I see, I have not seen Kronos, so it's definitely something I'm gonna have to eventually cover on Kaiju Connections with the classic review. It's not a stereotypical Kaiju movie, but it's definitely a sci-fi classic.
It's definitely not a stereotypical Kaiju. It's definitely not a stereotypical Kaiju either. Like it's not what you would expect a Kaiju to be.
No.
Yeah.
It's not even your straightforward alien invasion, because that's a very clever twist that Kronos did. It's now, spoilers for those who haven't seen it, it's not an actual alien itself, but rather an alien machine that's being controlled from the other side of the cosmos, which is a really good subversion. And what I really like in Walter's treatment is not only are there multiple machines, some of which may have different names besides being called Kronos, which I think is an interesting aspect. But I also like how you expanded on the sorts of energies that they can consume. Like they've gone beyond nuclear energy and man-made energy, but actually after natural energy resources, which is a really good way of expanding. And just curious, Walter, because in the original, the Doctor who was possessed by the Kronos signal, he mentioned that the invaders have half of the secret of the relation between energy and matter, whereas Earth has the other half. Is this something that you're going to toy with in your sequel as to how they defeat the lead Kronos machine, or is it going to be a different plot device entirely?
It's possible because that's why I say it, because when I first came up with it, I was just spinning it, but knowing like anything else, you get to refine it a little bit more. And when I came up with this whole concept, I came up with maybe a few minutes, but you sit down and really get it more, because like I say, with John, he really, amped it out beautifully. But I feel like that's just the action side. I feel like, yes, taking more, because that would be more connected with the human aspect. And I feel like that would be more to say, give it out. Because I feel like, if you don't have that human element in there, it's going to be, to me, it's going to be boring. It's like I say, why are you watching it? I mean, yes, you get the action, but what's the connection of why we're even watching this? You need that human connection in order to be involved with it. So, yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, but I do love the twist ending of something hiding behind the moon. And
that's what I like. It's mysterious.
Yeah,
I knew the moon landing was fake.
But you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of the end credits of the TV show UFO, where the camera pulls out from the Earth during the end credits, and it ends with a very ominous shot just behind the moon with the Earth deep into the distance. That's the sort of visual that I got from the ending of Walter's Kronos sequel.
Story,
Now, interesting enough, I've never even seen UFO, believe it or not. So that's kind of interesting that I touched on that with you. It's like, oh.
Mm-hmm. See, well, that's what I like doing this. This is the whole point about the fantasy filmmaking. We're all inspiring and we're all giving up ideas that hopefully, people find interesting and it gets them talk about it. with their own stories.
Mhm.
So who we're gonna go to next?
Okay.
Professor.
The professor is chomping at the bit.
He's like I said, he's ready to
Let's
roll.
talk about his favorite kaiju.
Oh, I've been cooking with this one.
Oh,
Well, guess what? You're gonna have to wait.
Wow. Don't do me like that,
That's too fu- that was too funny.
Because guess what? I'm gonna talk about Iran.
Son of a bitch.
Uh-oh.
Oh wow, okay.
You should have been quicker than that, Professor.
So
Yeah.
get ready, boys, because I have got an amazing idea.
Okay.
And it starts off with a load of shit because I'm joking. So
He's this is the Kevin we know and love. See, that's the thing.
So take it away, Mr. Daniel Miller, aka the Professor, and let rip your amazing Varan story.
Right. Here we go. Varan. Now, the story begins with an aircraft, an expedition aircraft, flying through a storm and it gets struck by a stray bolt of lightning. The pilots send out an SOS just as the plane crashes. We then skip to at least 2 or 3 days later, and a rescue party is en route to the coordinates of the SOS. On board, now this is important because in the original Varan, the lead female character had a brother and a friend who were killed early on in the film. This carries over this plot twist. Her introduction is that she's a reporter who has snuck on board the rescue vessel to personally find and bring back her brother. Of course, the main character finds her and of course detains her, but realizing that it's too late, they're beyond the point of no return, so sod it, you're coming with, but don't get in the way. A landing boat arrives on the shores of this very seemingly determined but really enticing island. They move into the interior and they see this huge mountain, like a plateau, in the island's interior. And as they move forward, they hear the sound of drums. And then very cautiously, they look through the undergrowth and they see this very primal tribe practicing human sacrifice to a deity that they call Baradage Sanjin, which is a nod to the inscription in one of the stones on the original. That's when they see the brother of the reporter who snuck through. The chieftain basically cuts open the brother's palms before throwing him through a opening in the mountainside, which is a small cave that they have locked behind a barrier of wood and bone. So he falls down through the cave and ends up falling into a huge body of water on the other side of the mountain. And as he's swimming to this beach line on the side, the water starts churning and there's these spines that just emerge through the water. And all that we hear is this otherworldly beast screaming. The woman, she charges out into the opening, taking one of the guns from one of the soldiers, basically knocking them over, taking the gun and starts shooting at the chieftain. And that, of course, starts a battle. Now, the rescue party, they do suffer some casualties, but they manage to get the upper hand against the tribesmen and save the rest of the expedition. But the battle has awoken the creature lying within the water, and that turns out to be Varan. And given that this is happening at night, the locals hear Varan crawling up the mountain, and they hurry to take out all of the lights. Like they blow out all of the fires. They're not interested in attacking the rescue team, but they're blowing out the fires. Now, this comes in useful later on in the film. The mountainside gives way as Varan emerges. At But this is the big reveal that we see this creature that they're sacrificing the people to, as a piece of clothing is actually hanging from Varan's mouth as he starts charging after tribespeople in the village. Of course, we have the rampaging scene of Varan just decimating this settlement, just completely annihilating it, while also chasing after the fresh meat running around in the environment. Now we notice that the main characters are separated from the rest of the expedition, and they take refuge in a small cave opening. Varan actually tries clawing its way through the cave, trying to get them until the sun rises. And it's here that we notice that Varan has an adverse reaction to light because he's nocturnal. Because in one of the pictures, Kevin, that I sent,
Yeah.
Varan has blank white eyes, and they have this reflective glow at night.
Oh,
And when
wow.
you see this in the daylight, and when you see this in the daylight, those eyes just go completely black, and he starts looking for shelter immediately because he's nocturnal. Long story short, the expedition seizes the moment to rendezvous back at the beach, but it takes almost a full day to get back in there, considering how deep into the island they went to. And of course, the sun dips down, Varan comes out of hiding and chases the expedition back to the beach. Of course, they manage to shoot Varan, not injuring it, but only just deterring it. But in doing so, they outright anger him. And it's here that Varan uses the membranes between his limbs, not just to take flight, but also as an intimidation display, as a sign that, all right, I am pissed off, and I'm going to show it to you. Of course, Varan then leaps forwards, glides on the air current, and then disappears into the ocean. Now, for a few days, it's all peaceful until the shipping lanes report unusual occurrences. There's a cargo freighter that thinks that they've run aground in shallow water, but there's no shallow water in their position, so they send out an SOS flare. And that flare angles Varan to the surface, and Varan destroys the cargo ship, sparing no one aboard. It's then learned that, okay, it's actually following the ocean currents to the Japanese mainland. So the Japanese government and the US reserves stationed in the Japanese territory coordinate efforts to evacuate and prepare for a counterattack. Varan arrives at Haneda Airport after sundown, and of course, the rampage in there begins. And this time, taking notes from Godzilla Raids again, the authorities plan a blackout in Haneda, which for a while actually works until a fuel driver, actually sees the creature in his headlights after forgetting to turn it off when starting the engine. That brings back Varan. Varan kicks the truck, and a fire starts, illuminating the shadows of the city. And that's when Varan really starts to go on a rampage because the light has angered him. The military, of course, fights Varan. It's ineffective, it's useless. A jet sortie strikes Varan with a barrage of rockets until Varan actually uses his membranes to jump into the air and actually snatches a few planes out of the sky mid-flight before landing into the airport itself, destroying the control tower. It's then one of the characters remembers why the natives douse the lights on the island. So he asks the military commander, if you have any aircraft on reserves, make sure that you load them with explosives, but use flares to drop the explosives on parachutes, because the conventional weaponry is not attacking Varan on the outside. They're thinking, okay, its hide is too thick, so we have to kill it from the inside. So, of course, they use one of the bombs laden with a flare. Varan's attracted by it, but he doesn't actually go for it because it's actually missing the ingredient to attack, which is human blood. So one of the characters, in this case the lead character, remembers this from when the sister's brother was sacrificed. The natives cut his wrists open before throwing him into the lake. So he decides that he's going to shoot himself in the hand, and his blood smears on the explosives crate that's landed. And Varan picks up on that. So he somewhat sacrifices himself to kill Varan. The trick works. Varan swallows him and the explosives. An explosive charge goes off in his throat, and Varan starts to bleed out before retreating back into the bay just as the sun rises. Then the battleship, the Yamata, that's what it's called, Battleship Yamata, engages Varan just as it's making its way for deeper waters and actually shoots depth charges and the deck cannons at the neck wound on Varan, because that's his weakest point now. After a few successive shots, they succeed, and Varan is just blown to pieces. But then it ends on a cliffhanger when an expedition goes out to the island to explore the old habitat. They encounter a juvenile Varan that's hatched next to a clutch of eggs. Of course, the expedition is unprepared for this because they're mainly done for exploring, not capturing. The juvenile Varan annihilates most of the expedition, and the surviving islanders, the natives, they come out and start to worship this younger Varan as the new god of the island, thus continuing the legend of Paradise Sanjin.
And you also get with this.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful image.
Thanks.
So I like the idea how you've added this, even though the creature's called Varan, you created this mythology around this ancient god that's got a different name to Varan.
Yeah.
And the villagers are worshipping this god. I just think it's fantastic. I think you've done a brilliant job, Daniel.
Yes.
I cannot wait for the book.
It's pretty much like Varan is a herald to that deity, or a physical embodiment to said deity.
Yes, definitely. That's how I was looking at it. What do the rest of you guys think of Daniel's idea?
Really interesting.
I was gonna say it's a little darker. It was like I said, when you add in the human blood situation, it's like, okay, I guess we are.
And the human sacrifice, don't forget.
So that's
Yes. So we're down to Mr. Jake Hall.
the enigma himself.
Who's been sitting there pretty and quiet and keeping himself to himself. So come on, Mr. Jake Hall, hit us with your first of all, who you selected, and second of all, is it a prequel, a remake, a sequel, or a reimagining?
Well, believe it or not, this is going to be of like a crossover type situation, because I'm treating this as a third installment to two previous films, which are Frankenstein versus Baragon and War of the Gargantuas.
Oh,
So this third installment is going to be entitled Baragon versus the Gargantuas.
Nice.
Okay.
So it's going to take place after what happened at the end of War of Gargantuas with the volcano, which technically you did not know if the Gargantuas died or not. And that's where you have... I wrote the names down of the characters so I can... Akime, she's all healed up, and she believes that neither one of the Gargantuas are dead. So she enlists the help of Dr. Yuzo Majida, whatever. I'll just call him Yuzo. Dr. Yuzo. So they're on an expedition trying to locate and trying to figure out if there's any signs of where the Gargantuous was. Well, during this search, during the process, something strange is happening in a small town village where a hiker is just strolling along and all that. And as he's walking, he starts hearing a strange noise. And then he starts hearing a rumbling. And as he's wondering, the ground begins to shake. And as the ground shakes, it starts to crack just a little bit before his feet. And he's like, the heck is going on? And next thing you know, he disappears out of thin air, like a Tremors almost type situation. And you hear him scream, and then next thing you know, you hear this type of growl. Now, going back to Akame and Dr. Yuzo, they're in the mountains searching, trying to find any clues to where, thinking the Gargantuas are alive or whatnot, when they come across a trail of footprints. One track. And they're like, look at the size of these. So as they're looking and looking, they see it goes all the way down to this little valley where there's vegetation, a lake, all that, kind of like a hidden valley. And as they go exploring, as they go down, the brown Gargantua, Sanda, emerges in perfect health, like no scratches or anything. And Akame is like, he survived. He survived. So they start setting up base camp, because as them two are doing the research, they also brought with them a group of researchers as well on this expedition of hunting. So as they're doing that, in another village, another strange occurrence starts happening. Kind of like in Frankenstein versus Baragon or Frankenstein Conquers the World. Animals start missing, and you just see bones and blood and everywhere, guts. And one of the female villagers, who's kind of like a farmer, walks up and is like, what's going on here? What's going on? And then in a distance, she sees something moving beyond the trees. She can't see, but then she sees a glowing horn.
Mm-hmm.
And as she turns away, she's like, in petrified fear, and all of a sudden, a flame-time floor just burns her to a crisp, like a heat type situation burns her.
Okay.
So all you see from it is just a pile of ashes of where she was at.
Oh, damn.
So back to the research team in the valley where they're studying Sanda. Little did they know that in the water is where Gyra is, and they haven't explored that yet. But one of their research teams was like, I need to wash something off, because we'll say it's a he, got dirty from doing something. And as he's washing off, Gyra comes out, lets out a roar, and he's like, ah! Runs back to the team. And as the team looks over, they see the other Gargantua has survived as well. So they have survived the volcanic eruption after their great battle from the first one. So they're studying them in their new habitat where they got abundance of food, shelter, and all that. Well, as they're doing that, we go to another village where there's actually a police station in this village. And one of the people comes up and says to the officer, I have missing cattle, I have missing chickens, I have livestock that is missing. And he's sitting here thinking it's a joke and all that, the officer. And then all of a sudden you hear this roar, and out comes Baragon in all his glory, roaring and all that, and starts pillaging and destroying everything that he sees. But I added a little twist. Instead of his heat ray, he also has a laser horn now. So he uses his horn and shoots out a beam of light and literally kind of does a swaying motion and hits everything around him and pretty much destroys everything around there. And after, yes, I would say more lines of King Ghidorah or Mecha Godzilla in a way with his spinning head. But anyway, so after he lets out a roar, he burrows back underground, and he's actually on a direct path to Tokyo. So they've been noticing a general who has been keeping tabs on Baragon secretly. They go and find Akime and Dr. Yuzo. And this general, I'm going to call him Gata, General Gata. He explains to these two that we have a serious situation here. Is there any way you can send these gargantuas to fight this creature? And Akime is like, what do you mean fight? We have been keeping tabs on another monster, and it's Baragon. He has returned. And along with the general, you have Dr. I hope I say this name right, Kawaji from the Frankenstein Conquers the World that threw the flash grenades, who knew all about Baragon. And he explains his research and all that. So they try to figure out how they're going to get the Gargantuas to this point because they figure out that he's on a direct course to Tokyo. Well, Akime and Dr. Uzo is like, well, we can create a drug that's so powerful enough that it can knock him out within a few moments. And if y'all have helicopters big enough to transport him, we can transport him to the city. Well, they end up concocting this knockout drug, knock both of the Gargantuas out. And then, kind of like how they did with King Kong, they use a giant net and carry both of them to the city, where Baragon has already arrived in Tokyo, and he's laying waste to part of Tokyo. He's in Shibuya right now.
This is getting good.
So he's in Shibuya. He's in Shibuya, and has destroyed part of a building, bridges, using his laser horn beams. Then his ears just perk up. He hears a noise, looks up, and he sees this helicopter bringing in these objects. Well, as Akime and everybody are in the helicopter, they look down to check on the Gargantuas, and they're starting to wake up. And as they wake up, they're looking around, and then they see this threat that's in the city. And Gyros just lets out a huge roar, then ends up tearing the net, releasing both him and Sanda down. And both of them let out a huge roar. Baragon lets out a roar. And Gyra just goes straight heads on towards Baragon. Lock up, all that. Kind of Frankenstein style. Just like the Sanda grabs a near, we'll say tanker. Bashes Baragon in the head from behind. As they double team him, Baragon swipes Sanda with his tail and then uses his fire breath on Gira, burning him. And because of the burns, you see, kind of like in War of the Gargantuas, he starts getting those blisters on his skin.
That's a good touch.
Yeah.
So, because of that, Gyra's down. As Baragon's fixing to light up his horn, Sanda comes in with a long train and just starts whipping Baragon with the train. As it's still connected, but as it's connecting, each piece of the train is falling off. And as Sanda jumps back as Baragon fires the laser horn, jumps away, and then Gyra comes in and bites on Baragon's neck, causing it to bleed. And then Sanda jumps on the back, locking the horns, and both of them are just double teaming on Baragon. And the way they win is Gyra, with his sharp claws, slashes at Baragon's throat, and then Sanda just rips his head complete off.
Oh God!
Making them the victor. And as they let out a huge roar of success, they look back into the helicopter and at Akame and Uzo and everybody else. And Akame says, "You can return home now." And as the Gargantuas look at each other, they head back to the sea near Tokyo Bay and swim off back to where they went to. And as Akame says, no good deed goes unpunished.
Wow.
And a little bit of happy ending. And then if I was to have a little plot twist, probably somewhere in the mountains, a new creature would pop up.
Like a third Gargantua or something.
Either that or a third enemy. Who knows? Possibly Varan. Or
I'm curious.
or Rodan.
Oh,
Very true.
The possibilities are endless. But that is Baragon versus Frankenstein. Or
I don't
the
know.
Gargantuas.
I thought that was really good. Like that was like, I love the action. I liked how the setting. I liked how you brought them back and how they did come back. I thought it was really creative. Well done.
I loved it too.
I love
Especially,
the fact that Baragon was actually a threat.
yeah.
Whereas
Nice,
compared to
especially
Frankenstein Conquers the World, Baragon wasn't really that much of a threat.
All the time that I was sitting, I was thinking when you said he, Gyra bit Baragon, I was thinking to myself, I don't know why. Instantly, I said, like Arnold Schwarzenegger saying, "If it bleeds, we can kill it." So when you rip his head off, I was like, okay, I guess he is dead now. Lord.
I especially love the double team aspect in the finale.
Yeah.
That was brilliant. considering how Sunder and Gyra have like this sibling rivalry going on in War of the Gargantuas, I think that this is very fitting and not only appropriate, but a really, really welcome twist in that dynamic.
Yeah, believe it or not, this actually came. I was in a dream of mine. Believe it or not, and you can also thank part to Godzilla Rulers of Earth because them two also teamed up to fight Godzilla as well. So that's where I got the inspiration for this. Because honestly, I was going to do Rodan, but I was like, you know what, somebody else might be doing that. So I was like, you know what, let me do this crossover thing that just magically popped in my head.
Yeah. I never thought about a crossover, so that was a brilliant idea and very creative.
Because it's still in that realm. When you think about it, I mean, true enough, Frankenstein versus Baragon and War of the Gargantuas are kind of in the same universe. It's like I feel like it's I like that. I like that. It's brilliant.
I think it's funny how he's whipping Baragon with a chain, like how you would whip a dog, like how some people would whip the dog with a bell.
Dude, I was like that. I could see that.
Brutal. That was especially brutal, and it's a really nice touch as well, especially how you described. Oh, the train is still holding on, but it's also breaking into pieces with every single swipe. That's just brilliant attention to detail, Jake.
Thank you.
I'm gonna say the sad part about that is if they was to actually put that, would you rather have America do it as far as special effects, or you rather have the Japanese do it? I'd rather have the Japanese do it.
Toho, hands down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wouldn't want to.
Yes.
No.
So finally, we'll move on to Mr. Anthony Jordan.
After thinking about it, I kind of settled on the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, and I began to thinking about what would I do different. And the thing I kept coming to was the whole virus that the Beast was carrying that gets people sick, that you can do something really interesting in that. And my idea is this is going to be set 1970s, and it's going to begin similar to the original. You're going to have American military testing a new nuke, and basically this is a mini nuke, something that won't take out more than like 3-4 miles, and we see the nuke test. Then we have some military personnel suit up, put the radiation suits on, and go to examine, and they see that, yeah, this even has a relatively low radiation level, so this is something the bomb will dissipate quickly. And then the earth shakes, and we see some of the scientists and military personnel fall in, and we have our main character who's a captain in the U.S. Air Force, who he sees the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. And then the next scene, we see him trying to report it, and he ultimately gets a Section 8 discharge, which for those of you that know what it is, it's a military discharge for people that are having mental issues. And he feels defeated, and then another scientist pulls him to the side who's being let go of the program too, and he's like, I believe you too, and I lost my team on there, so you're out of a job now. How about you come work with me and we investigate this privately? In the next scene, you see somewhere in the Pacific, because that's where these tests would be taking place, just a small private fishing boat, not even commercial, just some people out fishing at night. And the boat starts to shake, and then you see a camera shot from overhead, and you see like two jaws open up and swallow the boat completely whole. And then you cut back to, it's been months later, and you have the former Air Force captain and the scientist and a team, and they're actually tracking these boat wrecks or disappearances because they notice a pattern that they're stemming from the island, in that survivors found have strange burns, and they're typically dead. And then the next scene, you cut to the aftermath of one of those wrecks, and you see some Coast Guard or someone, I'm not sure who, find a survivor. And when they wake this survivor up, he's a fisherman, and he opens his eyes, and you see this immediate rage in his eyes, and he grabs a knife and stabs the person that rescues him to death, then jumps to his feet and stabs the others to death. And what I'm going is not zombies, but a infected, where the creature, and it will be revealed later in the plot, the people who get exposed to the bug, either they're going to get sick or die, or they're going to get sick and just develop this immediate homicidal rage. So you have more than just the threat of the creature, just people coming into contact with this are going to become either die or they're going to become homicidally violent. And we just follow them as they're seeing this creature going from the Pacific through the Gulf up the Atlantic. And we all know where it's going to head. And I'll have a scene then in New York City where their prediction is it's probably heading towards New York just based on how it's moving. And I do want a nice shot here just as a nice Easter egg, not to say these movies are in the same universe, but they're at some docks in New York City, and you see a ship sailing off in the distance. And again, this is just the Easter egg, but it's the ship from the 70s King Kong remake.
I was about to, yes.
Just,
Wow.
just because I know a lot of film buffs would like see that, and they would just see that and love it.
They lose their shit.
I love that.
Because I was going to ask you, Anthony,
I
what
love it.
time period in the 70s was this taking place? Was it that early or the late? I didn't know for sure. Now I got a gist of it. So yeah.
And you have them sit in, and the former captain, he manages to call in a few favors, and one of his friends that's still with the Air Force, and he's like, yeah, we are tracking this, and it's strange. I can't say much. I'm actually in the city. Can I meet you for lunch? And they meet somewhere, and he's like, well, this is what I know, that these fishing boats are sinking all over the place. Smaller boats are completely disappearing. And when we find survivors, they're either dead and dying with radiation burns and some kind of bug, and the ones who don't survive respond with immediate homicidal aggression. We don't know if this, whatever it is contagious or not, but it's being kept hush-hush. And that's when you have at some point the beast show up in New York City in a similar way to the original, only my beast from 20,000 Fathoms, he's going to be around 70 meters tall. So it's going to be a much bigger beast. And it's got, the way I designed it, I sent Kevin a picture to show. It's got you see, it's got the large spines, a horn on its nose, and you can see like it's got the radiation burns from the test of the mini nuke.
Oh, wow.
And for the head, I wanted it to look somewhere that's like a cross between an alligator and a Komodo dragon. And you just get some beast from 20,000 Fathoms things, like it goes through, it eats people, it destroys buses. And you actually do have a nice scene where like the military's like, we want to attack this, but it's also like, we can't, we need, for an action in a major U.S. city like this to fire, especially when there's civilians around, we need presidential approval. So even though they have jets in the air and they can lock on this thing, they can't target it without approval. And then it starts digging and actually tunnels under the city. And this is where the bug comes into play. I'm going to keep the beast off screen for the next several minutes, and we're going to cut to people getting sick and people responding with the homicidal aggression. Like, I imagine one scene where one of the homicidally aggressive people, he walks up to a gas station, stabs the gas station attendant in the throat. Then he takes 2 gas pumps and just pours all the gas on the ground. Well, not all of it, just floods the ground with the gas before pulling off a Zippo and throwing it on the ground and just bang. And you see reports, and they're all stemming out these people going crazy, homicidally aggressive from the path the beast took. So the call is made to completely seal off the island. They seal the tunnels and they order fighter jets to hit the bridges with missile strikes because they still don't know if it's contagious. In whatever this is, they can't risk it getting off the island. So I even want to just nice scene where you have just a side character, and this is going to be the only scene, and it's one of the pilots, and like he's having a crisis of conscience about this. Like, I didn't join the military to attack U.S. soil to seal my own people in, and his commanding officer just sympathetic because I don't want to villainize the military. They're just reacting to a horrible situation. Explain, I agree with you, but we don't know what this thing is, and this island needs to be sealed off for everyone's good. And then you have the Scots, like they actually physically seal off the bridges. This way they can regain access to the island when they need to. But then you have missiles firing at the bridges, destroying them. And at this point, the crew that had been researching it are brought in to advise with the military and think of ways to kill it. And then we have the creature re-emerge, only he emerges under the Empire State Building. In the process of him digging himself out, causes the Empire State Building to fall over and collapse.
Wow.
And then you cut to a news situation as we see him through the city and find out the president admit, yes, the president is considering ordering a nuke on the island because this just keeps getting worse and worse. The people who are stuck on the island are ordered to shelter in place, and they're even told, if you're met with any of these infected, if they break in, be prepared to use lethal force because that's your only option. Also, at this point, we'll find out that, yeah, it's not contagious from the point where, like, an infected can't spread the infection to another person, but as long as the creature's around, it's going to keep spreading the infection. And then we have just downtown Times Square. The beast is rampaging in the military. You have tanks, missiles, everything fire on it, and like Times Square gets completely leveled. And they do manage to wound the creature's neck. And it's like, yeah, missiles aren't doing enough, and we have to figure out how to stop this thing fast, because if we don't stop it in the next 24 hours, the president has approved a nuclear strike. So after spitballing some ideas, they come up with the idea of trying a coagulant, because it does have open wounds they can hopefully get a rocket or something into. And they develop the coagulant. They get enough to put into 2 shells to deliver the coagulant, but they have to get close. So you have the main character who gets to be the one to take the shot, and he fires one. They reload it and fire the second, and the creature sees them and starts making its way to him. And then the beast from 20,000 Fathoms like seizes up, and you see like the eyes begin to bulge and it start to shake, and it's the coagulant taking effect. And like the eyes even just pop out of its head, because I want to give it just a gruesome death, and the creature falls over dead. But it ain't over, because we still have this body leaving this body there that's still capable of spreading the infection. So I'm not going to end it in a necessarily happy note. It's going to see news footage that this creature is defeated, but it's still the thing spreading the infection. So authorities are unsure what to do with the island of Manhattan, and for the time being, it is going to remain sealed off indefinitely. So I want to, again, go with a lot of 70s movies had those very bleak endings. So I want an ending where yeah, the beast from 20,000 Fathoms is dead, but because of this sickness it spreads, like the fate of Manhattan still has to be left up in the air at the end of the movie.
That sounds. I like how you've made it like a mixture of a kaiju movie, but like it's zombie, even though they're not zombies, like an apocalyptic kind of monster movie, horror movie.
Like I said,
too.
Like I said, it was the whole, even in the original, that the beast was spreading this sickness. It was something about that just kept coming back to me, that I can expand that.
Yeah.
What up, Matt?
Hey, Matt.
I can expand that sickness and actually do a cross-genre story with it. I found it like the most interesting thing about a concept for a remake.
Pretty much like it was almost like wasted potential that they almost had right in front of them they could have used in the film originally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Walter, do me a favor, just check the group chat, on Messenger.
Okay.
Just
I
for
really
a
love
minute.
this outline, Anthony, especially the scene with the beast tunneling underground and then emerging underneath the Empire State Building, which immediately, as it crashes, it makes me think of the Thunderbirds episode Terror in New York City, where an earthquake literally brings down the Empire State Building. Just visually, that's what it's making me think of. But then it's with the Retrosaurus in context, it amplifies that visual impression tenfold brilliantly. And I especially like the decision to keep the beast off screen for the amount of time to focus more on the disease. So you've really got more than just the beast at play here. There's this plague, which is at first it's a secondary threat, but then throughout this the silence and the suspense, it becomes the primary threat that's front and center until the Retrosaurus returns, which is a really good directional move, Anthony.
No,
Thank you.
100%.
I have to add this. I mean, what I like about the 70s aesthetic, because the films that came out during this time, whether it be sci-fi or horror or anything, like somehow Anthony was able to channel that kind of motif of how people react or whatever, and it's because I'm gonna be honest with you, how people were disposed of back in the 70s were a lot more gruesome than some of the stuff we see now. I mean, not to say that we don't have it now in the 2000s and everything, but back then they were more vicious, they were more violent, they were more aggressive with what they were doing. So
like Earthquake.
That was brilliant. Yeah.
Also, this, if it were to be made, it would be shot with the old school 70s camera on 70s film stock. Like, it wouldn't be enough to be set in the era. It would have to look like it was actually filmed in the era.
On 35 millimeter.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about too. Would it be in anamorphic or like something like that? Yeah. Cool.
Well done, Anthony. I really like so far. I think you and Jake's ideas have been brilliant. I think Walter's is very creative and different. I like the biblical elements of John's story, and of course, you've done a fantastic job doing like a new version of Iran.
Yes.
Daniel, but it's my turn.
Here we go.
The floor is yours.
So,
exactly.
Of course, I'm from England, I'm from Britain, and I had only one choice.
Conga.
Fuck off.
Congo would be the only choice.
Of course, I have chosen a reboot and a reimagination and a modern version of Gorgo.
Okay.
But my Gorgo is being produced and created by Paramount Pictures to rival the Monsterverse. and it's got quite an interesting cast. So take a look at the upcoming movie and its movie poster.
Oh,
Oh, dang, they beat them up.
Oh, you got
So
Neo
that-
in there. Okay.
So Keanu Reeves, Emilia Clarke, who is British, so we needed a British actress to help with the story, and Michelle Pfeiffer is the villain of this movie.
Oh, okay.
So
Yes.
it is a mixture of the original movie and its story with new elements. So first and foremost, the film opens up in the 1960s. And it's just an underwater scene where you see the water and you see the fish swimming around. Imagine the opening of Jaws, where you see just the water, you hear the music, and you follow the fish around the ocean floor within the British waters. Suddenly, before the title Gorgo appears on screen, we are treated to an underwater earthquake, and the next image you see is the ground opening up beneath the surface, and it's a giant opening. The next element you see is it goes to a fishing village, a fictional fishing village, just like in the original Gorgo, but in modern day times on Island. And on the island of Ireland, you are introduced to Emily Clarke's character, who is called Rachel. Her name is Rachel King. She's named Rachel King because, as you know, the King brothers are the ones that produced the original Gorgo.
Okay. All my eyes. I got you.
So her name is Rachel King, and she runs the local pub. She is like the third generation of this pub, because obviously her father run the pub, her grandfather, but she has a deep secret. The deep secret is her family are the protectors of a secret cave, and in that cave is are cave paintings. On that cave painting is these ancient creatures in a mystical like race. And that Emily Clarke, and she's very protective of this. Suddenly, one day, an event transpires that happens once a century. And once a century, a creature leaves the trench in the opening under the ground in the ocean, comes ashore, and goes inside the cave and gives birth to a baby creature. But because we're now in modern times, the British military and navy pick up this, unknown object heading to the island shore, so they investigate. And unfortunately, they discover this giant creature and attack it. And the bad thing is, when they attack this creature, they kill it.
Oh no!
And the creature, as you can see, is heavily pregnant. And at the same time as this is going on, you are introduced to Vanessa Dawkins. Now, you've got Rachel King, who is absolutely breaking her heart because of the death of this creature, and she knows about these creatures. You've got Vanessa Dawkins, who, as you know, the circus in the original Gorgo was called Dawkins Circus. She is the owner of Dawkins Entertainment. And Dawkins Entertainment basically owns amusement parks, leisure facilities. But over the last several years, there's been so many accidents because she skips on all health and safety that our company's on the verge of bankruptcy. And after the death of this creature, it's highlighted that it's on this island. It's given birth to a baby, which is now in captivity. But she hires a group of mercenaries to kidnap the child, and she stores it in a secret warehouse facility in London.
Okay.
because her idea is I'm going to kidnap this creature and then I'm going to create it. It's like an amusement park kind of, attraction and make the money so I can pull me company out of bankruptcy. And she's done it all secretly without the government knowing. And there's Michelle Pfeiffer monitoring the baby Gorgo. And as you can see, she's also stolen a bit of the ancient maps and scrolls from the island that were in the pub in a secret lockup that Rachel King, Emilia Clarke's character, had. So basically, she's taken these scrolls because she's now trying to understand the creatures at the same time as keep them kidnapped. What then happens, just offshore, suddenly there is a roar from the ocean and you see eyes glowing in the dark. And it's another unidentified creature that is heading towards London. This is when Vanessa Dawkins decides, right, I need to take the baby and I need to transport it out of London secretly without it being discovered. So she boards it on a giant boat and she takes it to San Diego. This is when the US military and the British military haven't got a clue about this creature and what to do. So they have to hire a cryptozoologist, and so they hire none other than Mr. Keanu Reeves. So Mr. Keanu Reeves is putting his idea on trying to solve this problem, and at the same time he is then met with, of course, Emilia Clarke's character, who he begins a partnership with. She wants to protect the secrecy and the lives of these creatures, which her family have been secretly protecting for years and years. She also obviously wants to bring them back to peace, so they're no longer threatened. So they do some investigation inside the cave, where they discover loads of ancient eggshells. They also discover these glowing crystals on the roof, and they realize that these crystals have come from a pocket of the earth that is not being discovered, that is hidden away from the rest of the world, basically like the Hollow Earth.
Yeah.
So as they're investigating this on island, the unidentified creature decides to make landfall in none other than London. And what can we say? This is probably one of the biggest action sequences of this film, because once the daddy shows up, not the mammy, it is the daddy, because the mammy's being killed, and the daddy is Gorgo.
Oh, damn.
Okay.
So Gorgo is the father of the child, and he goes on a rampage because he can pick up the scent of his child, and unfortunately Gorgo's infant is not there. But then he picks up the scent of the infant, and he decides to dive deep into the ocean and swim halfway across the world to San Diego.
Oh, wow. Okay. We're going international with this. Okay.
So that is a British Trident submarine, one of our nuclear subs that hovers the UK. So the Trident's in the ocean, and it follows Gorgo all the way back to San Diego. But as you know, the Americans do not want, obviously, Gorgo to make landfall. And this is where we get our second big action sequence, because the second action sequence of this movie, huge action sequence, is the military blockade Gorgo from reaching San Diego Bay. he's destroyed the British submarine, and suddenly each and every one of those military naval vessels strike Gorgo with everything they can hit him with. And it pisses him off. It pisses him off to the point where we see for the very first time a unique ability that Gorgo has never shown, and that is the ability of a electrical wave from his fins at the back of his body, which he releases, and it wipes out every single vessel in the ocean.
Oh, dang.
I'm surprised you didn't give him heat vision.
No, I wanted to do, because obviously it would have been a cop out after you'd given him a fire breath, so I thought, let's give him something
Always some
different.
bullshit with that.
Yeah. So once that happens, he then makes his way onto shore, onto San Diego Bay. At the same time, you've got Michelle Pfeiffer's character, who's, because she's thick as fuck, decided, you've got the giant raven monster, and she's that desperate to, not lose her fortune. Oh, guess what I'll do? I'll place Baby Gorgo in Pepco Park, which, as you know, is the stadium inside San Diego, and she fills it with a live audience.
Oh my god!
Oh,
oh my god!
The cuteness.
That looks so cursed.
Bruh.
It looks like Bowser Jr.
Yeah, I
was going to say Little Godzilla from Space Ghost.
no, but I was going to say, Kevin, I mean, it's Michelle's. I was going to ask you, was Michelle Pfeiffer's character a bitch? But this is beyond a bitch move right here. This is like, what the fuck, man?
So she literally fills the stadium full of people.
You're gonna, oh my god!
And as they're crowding and cheering, and Baby Gorgo's literally shitting his pants because there's a crowd and he doesn't know. On the other side of town, this has happened.
oh
Daddy's
shit!
about to get ditty.
Yeah.
He literally picks up one of the boats and hauls it at a skyscraper in San Diego.
Yeah, he's gonna throw shit down.
Yeah, so Daddy Gorgo is not very happy, and obviously,
Rightfully pissed.
Yes, Keanu Reeves' character and Emilia Clarke have made it to San Diego and are sprinting to the Pepco Park to warn everybody to get the fuck out of the building before Gorgo makes his way to, of course, the actual stadium.
Because he's already fucking shit up.
Yep.
Yeah. And as you can imagine, Michelle Pfeiffer and Emilia Clarke, which leads to this.
Okay.
So Gorgo, everyone's getting burnt alive or getting crippled, crushed. Baby Gorgo's now very happy because Daddy's arrived, and Gorgo's on his way. Emilia Clarke, they're trying to warn Michelle Pfeiffer's character. He's fell on death's ears. Michelle Pfeiffer then sees the carnage around her and in complete shock. She realizes her mistake, but it's far too late. So Michelle Pfeiffer, out of grief of seeing people dying in the chaos around her, she then makes a choice. She then decides to walk onto the pitch where Baby Gorgo is, where she literally is sitting there on her knees in tears at the carnage around her. And she basically gets devoured by Baby Gorgo. He basically does a Baby Zilla in freaking, or a Baby Rex in the Lost World, and he basically devours her in seconds and chews her ass up.
My question is, does she even taste good? Because I mean, I'm thinking like something that disgusting wouldn't taste as good to him at all, you know. But that's my opinion. Wow.
So that's what ends up happening to her, and then obviously Keanu Reeves' character and all that, they basically just had to leave. But just like in the original Gorgo, as soon as the baby is rescued, Gorgo's mannerisms and appearance and who he is completely changes. He becomes very timid, he becomes very placid because he's got his child back. And he ends up going to the end of San Diego, on the cliffside of San Diego, where he stands proudly, knowing he's rescued his child, and his child and him back into the ocean and swim off into the sunset. And it's left open with a question mark because now they know these creatures exist. They don't know where they're going. They don't know what's going to happen next. But that does lead us, because this is Paramount rivaling the Monsterverse. They decided to do a Gorgo trilogy.
Okay.
And so I'm not going to talk about the stories, but I am going to feature the posters for my trilogy of Gorgo films. So, of course, you've seen the first Gorgo, which is like a reimagination, a retelling of the original one with some twists and turns and differences and set in modern times. And then we had the first sequel, which was called Gorgo Lost World.
Okay.
Starring Keanu Reeves, Emilia Clarke, and John Hamm is a trophy hunter. And so basically the story of that is where the crack in the bottom of the ocean, Keanu Reeves and Emily Clarke, who's now become his research assistant, decide to go deep inside the crack, and they find this underground pocket of new life, new creatures like the Hollow Earth. But along with them is John Hamm's character, who is a multi-billionaire businessman, but he's secretly a trophy hunter, and he wants to hunt the last greatest prize in the world, which is Gorgo. But along the ride, they discover another giant kaiju, which is like that giant rhino kaiju, who's like Gorgo's enemy in this Hollow Earth place, the Lost World. You do see Baby Gorgo, but he's more or less a cameo at the beginning of that particular film. And then we get to the darkest chapter of the trilogy. And this is virtually like Godzilla versus Destroyer. And it is called Gorgo, Monster of Our World.
Wow.
And basically similar situation where Baby Gorgo gets lost, ends up in Japan, and at the same time this giant creature emerges from a cocoon, which isn't from our world. This is an alien entity, and it basically goes after and destroys anything in its path. And if this one stars Keanu Reeves, it stars Emilia Clarke, it stars Ken Watanabe, Michelle Yeoh, and as the villain, a corrupt president of the United States, James Spader.
Okay.
And as you can tell by the poster, this is going to be the darkest chapter, and not everybody or everything or thing is going to get out alive. And that is my Gorgo trilogy.
That's good. All right.
Love the premise. Love it.
That is.
So, thoughts on the trilogy that I came up with?
Okay.
Pretty good.
I'm humbled by that. That was enriching, because it's like, damn, dude, you went full on, like spectacle. I mean, you started out with something small, which is how you do a movie anyway. You start out with something basic, simple, build it up, and then at the very end of it, it's like hit them with all the guns, and it's like, there you go. So
yeah,
beautiful.
I love how it's a really solid retread of the original Gorgo for the first installment. It's wonderful, especially with the San Diego twist in there.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have this whole subplot of this underworld ecosystem with the family of Gorgo. Then you have this this parallel of the Lost World, which is a really good rival to the Monsterverse, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then you end it with this Armageddon level extraterrestrial creature that is perfect for a third installment. Perfect. If you're doing a trilogy, you always end the big bad being from outer space. If you're doing a trilogy like this is the right decision, Kevin. And it's amazing.
Oh, well, thank you so much. You're very kind. But yes, all have been fantastic. This has been fantastic. This has definitely been one of the most interesting and imaginative streams of this year so far. And I hope you guys have fully enjoyed doing all of this. And your ideas are brilliant. And, you know, it just shows you what you can put your mind to if you really try.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think this is going to be the last of our fantasy filmmaking, because I do believe we're going to have to do some more.
Yes.
Generally,
Please give us more.
yes, I generally feel, hand on heart, this has been that good, and your ideas are brilliant. And I want to see more, I want to hear more, I want to feel more. And so I think, with that said, I think there's only... Yes, John?
I was going to say, you had me decide to make what my poster would look like for a behemoth movie would be made with the ideas I had in store. And so I decided to do my own poster.
Oh, good. But with that said, I think, like I say, we are definitely going to have to do more of these. And would you guys be willing to do more of these?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm definitely down for it.
Good, because in the next few months, we're going to have to do this one.
I don't see anything.
What?
Keep the comedy.
No,
clean.
literally,
After
there's
the
nothing that
comedy.
popped up for a second. I'm like, I'm sorry, what's he trying to show us?
And then we're going to have to do
Like
this
nothing was
one.
happening on my end.
Ooh.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And finally, you know what has to be done.
Yeah.
Save the best for last.
And the funny thing is, I have something on the back burner for that one, and you will be amazed what I have when we do that one.
But these are definitely coming soon. I cannot wait to see what your ideas are for those 3 new, fantasy filmmaking streams. I've had a blast here. Is there anything else any of you would like to say about your ideas or anybody else's ideas?
Just think if we all brainstormed the movie we could come up with.
Well, it'd be better than anything fucking Hollywood's come up with.
Well, you already know that. That's a given. I mean, that's the whole purpose of why we was here, because we spin doctored. I mean, some of us came up with stuff like that, and it's like, why can't Hollywood do the same thing? And it's like, it's brilliant. I mean, some of it might be prequel, some might be a remake, but it's fluid in terms of like it's different than the crap we see nowadays. So it's like,
Yeah, I'll be honest. I mean, the stuff I did with Giant Behemoth, that was all on the fly. Like I literally just came up with it while watching the film.
See.
Yeah. There is one scene.
Great idea sometimes can just come at a moment's notice.
Yeah. There is one scene that I would like to add on just to the Varan scene. It's in the run up before Varan makes landfall at Haneda. There's this small farm on the coast of an island off the mainland. It's a gentle storm, not huge tidal waves, just the occasional flash. The landowner comes out to hear a ruckus from his animals, from his cattle. And then in a flash of lightning, he turns around and he just sees, silhouetted in shadow, Varan just devouring all of his livestock before standing on its hind legs and letting out that shrieking roar. And the farmer is just overcome with this fear, this terror of this thing he's seen. He dies of sheer fright. And then the entire village on this small island is just wiped out before Varan disappears back into the ocean.
Sounds
I
amazing.
would say another thing too. I forgot to mention is like when the scientists and when the biologist professors show up to Holy Island. I have it written in my notes, but I forgot about it. But there's also a dead whale on the beach when they show up. But not only, so on top of the fish, there's also a dead whale. And also during the scene they first see, where we get a glimpse of it, I plan on making it to where a whale is breaching out, then you just see it just come out of nowhere and just swallow that whale whole. Just to try to show off how the sheer size of the creature. And then when it comes to Big Ben, I've decided, I took a little inspiration from Anthony, I'm going to have advice from Underground and have it knock Big Ben over. And what people see before it finally emerges from the smoke, you just see its silhouette within the smoke and dust from Big Ben falling down.
Yes.
Nice.
Now, I will say this before we end this. You know, I all of ours, you know, and I think this is the thing about this. It's a lot more mature than the films of prison. I mean, yes, they had some kind of maturity back then, but they could only go so far with what their gratuity was. Like with with Jake's, you know, Sandler just ripping Baragon's head off. It's like, you probably could get away, but I don't think you could back then. That is, you know, because it was more towards children. So nowadays, I think all of ours shows that maturity and showing that not so much the violence, but it's like, look, real life isn't something that you play around with. Real life shows the gratuity of what can happen, whether you be human or a kaiju. Is like, yeah, limbs are going to get cut off. You know, someone's head's going to get smashed. Someone's going to get, you know, slashed with a knife. It's like all these things are something that we can all agree with that are push the limits on, you know. So it's like, that's the thing.
And I think too is maybe have a scene where when they go to the island, they see some they see some children affected by literally playing jump rope with someone's intestines.
Damn.
That's lovely.
That's dark, but
yeah. And to add on to Walter's point, look at the disaster movies from the 70s, like Earthquake and Poseidon Adventure. Those deaths, even for the mid 70s, they were brutal.
They were.
Yes. Yeah, they were. So I wanted to ask you, what did you think of Gorgo's modernized design? Because I tried to modernize him for current audience.
Pretty good.
Oh yeah.
I like how.
Oh yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, I like how it's not too far removed. Like there is some resemblance to the original, like namely in the ears. That's distinguishable about Gorgo. The spines along the back, I think, are a really nice touch. They're not Godzilla, but it does give it a bit more flair from its original counterpart.
I would say as well, try to maybe have his statue be hunched or slouched over a bit so he seems more animalistic.
And I do like how the spines are just one solid fin, which would definitely make him a more effective swimmer.
Yeah.
I tried to make him like aquatic, and I did do this as well.
Nice.
Oh. Wow.
He just carefully placed it down.
Wow, that's good. See.
Amazing.
Like he thought about throwing it. He thought about throwing it down. He's like, no, that's gonna cost a lot, man. Let's just place it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I put a lot of thought into like how you would move and how you would interact. I wanted him to come across in the beginning is like just a giant creature who had no abilities. In that, when he hits London, all you see is like his brutality and his strength and his power. But then when he's getting gunned down in the middle of the ocean near San Diego, he then has to bring out this unknown weapon where his fin starts to like light up with the orange electricity, and it's basically like a pulse beam, like a pulse wave. So he like sends this pulse wave outwards, and it basically anything it hits, it basically just like if it's electronic or anything like that, it literally just wipes it away. So I tried to do something different to what from like Godzilla and stuff like that.
That's brilliant. Take something that we already familiar with and just give it a more guttural effect to it. It's like that's what you do.
But anyway, Jen, this has been fantastic. I've had a blast, but I'm going to ask each and every one of you, John, what's coming to your channel next?
So it's gonna be whatever I'm able to edit and get down before Tuesday at 4 where I will post it. But then every Saturday I'll be streaming Man-Eater, and the series will be called Big Bad Wolf Becomes a Man-Eater. So every Saturday at 10 a.m. That will be the series.
That's what I was.
That's the. Well, not that kind of man. I'm talking about like legit, like you're talking for legit devouring people.
Well, get the
we know what you're doing on Saturday night.
It's not that kind of stream.
but pretty much every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. CST, that will be what's going on.
Okay.
Yes.
And then of course I'm still working on my Wolf Creek novella.
What about you, Jedi Granville? What's coming to Jedi Granville Productions?
Well, before Jedi Granville Productions, I got a little something going on next Sunday with Mr. DJ Anubis. And
nice.
we're going to be discussing the showcase, the spotlight on quote unquote what we just talked about with my story, Chronos, the 57 movie. And we're going to discuss it, kind of break it down. Now, the Sunday after that, I will be humbly talking about The Whale God, a film myself. Yes, a film myself I have not even seen, but thanks to Mr. Kevin Lambert suggested it, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a crack at this and see what how I do with it, And further down the line, at the very tail end of the month, I'm going to be discussing the 54th anniversary of the sci-fi thriller Outland that stars Sean Connery. Hopefully, Mr. Miller will be attending it with me, And then later that month, I'll be discussing the 35th anniversary of Thelma and Louise with, hopefully, if everything goes well, Mr. DJ Anubis and DJ Neko. So,
that'll be good.
So that'll be on my channel there. So yeah.
Mr. Daniel Miller, aka the Professor.
Well, coming soon at some point in the future, but definitely coming soon to my channel. I am doing some more focus on the creative fiction story writing. Now, I don't want to allude to too much because a lot of it is kept under wraps. But what I will say is there are certain genres involved, from noir thriller to fantastical swords and sorcerers to slice of life. And that's as much as I'm going to say for the time being. If you want to know anything else, we're just going to have to wait.
And we will.
There we go.
Now, my good friend here, Mr. Kaiju Enigma Jake, I was going to say John there, he's above his head. My good
I'm always
friend
above.
Jake.
Lord have mercy. Okay.
Guess what? Him and me are going to be doing a segment together on my channel called What You Been Watching. So basically, the concept of that, is very simple. Him and I will, when we choose a date, we'll watch a couple of films that we have in our collection. So we're DVD racks, we're Blu-ray racks, we're 4K racks, whatever DVD or Blu-ray movie he's chose to watch that week, we'll pull them out, showcase them, and talk about them. And that's pretty much what you've been watching is going to be about. But of course, Jake is always welcome on the entertainment headquarters, Kaiju Connections. Any film reviews he wants to do, he's more than welcome to join. Finally, Anthony Jordan. What's coming to Anthony Jordan's movies and gaming?
Well, I went to see the Michael Jackson movie today. Up front, it was good, not great, but I'm doing a review of it. I'm hopefully planning to record it tonight, but whether I record it tonight or tomorrow, it's going to be a simple enough editing process. So sometime tomorrow, that review should be up.
Nice. As for me in the entertainment headquarters, we do have quite a lot coming down the pipeline in the month of May. First and foremost, tomorrow I am going to be doing 2 reviews. One for thrash.
Something tells me you didn't like that film. Something tells me you hated that film.
And I'm going to be reviewing another Netflix original film called Apex. With Charlize Theron and Aaron, I forgot his name, Taron, who was in what film was he? He was in a film called Carry On. He was in the Gentleman films, I believe.
Yes, Gentleman's Club.
Yeah, so gonna be reviewing them 2 films tomorrow, and then on the 2nd of May, which I believe is next weekend, next Saturday, we're getting back to the kaiju because we're going to be doing the Giant Claw
On my birthday.
That's going to be on the 2nd. Happy birthday. Then on the 13th, we're going to be doing an Into the Darkness special on the Hostel films. Then on the 10th, no, is it the 10th? Yes, no, it's not. It's the 16th of May. I'm going to be doing a live, and it's going to be called Live Build a DeLorean Special. I've got a Back to the Future's DeLorean model kit I'm going to attempt to put together without throwing it off the fucking wall. So that is coming on the 16th, and then the 23rd, we're going to be talking about Under Siege on the Retro Classic Movie Show with me and my co-host, Mr. DJ Anubis. And finally, on the 30th of May, me and DJ Anubis are getting together again, and we're doing a Hellboy franchise special. We're going to be talking about all 4 of the Hellboy films. So if any of you guys want to join us for that one, you are more than welcome. Let me know, and we'll see you there. But as always, gentlemen, this has been fantastic. You have been an amazing group of guests. This has been a lot of fun. It's been one of my favourite streams so far of the year. And we've got, like I say, a few more fantasy filmmaking streams in the near future. But as always,
I look forward to all those.
Yes, well, John, you're going to be a part of them, so get your ideas ready, boys. But anyway, keep on enjoying your movies, keep on enjoying all things entertainment, and as Jedi Granville always says, keep that kaiju love alive. Thanks, everybody.
For